If you're like me, you have a hard time finding football boots that fit your very wide feet. So my goal today is to narrow down and give you a short list on boots that most likely will fit your wide feet, or at the bare minimum, give you a sort of guide. And if I'm able to help you get rid of any of that pain, blisters, uncomfortableness, and you actually find a pair of football boots that work, then mission accomplished. And with that, we're gonna jump right into this list. So the first pair of boots on this list is the Nike Tiempo Legend 10 Elite. I don't have any of my pairs with me right now because I left them in deep storage, so you'll have to trust me, but it is a very good boot for having wide feet. So the main thing about the Tiempo 10 is the fact that it is no longer actual leather, it is a replacement leather, and I believe it is called Fly Touch Plus. It's a synthetic upper, it feels a lot like the CTR, and surprisingly it actually stretched really well. I do know a few people that I'm friends with who don't think the Tiempo 10 is good for wide feet, and that's totally fine, but as somebody who has pretty wide feet, I didn't have any issues. I've worn 3 pairs. I wore a pair 3 months before they released. I wore the whiteout pair because I thought they were super cool, and then I wore an AG pair. So I've tested them out a decent amount of times. Between the 3 pairs, probably 30 plus hours of time in the Tiempo 10. And even though I wore an AG pair, the 2 other pairs I had were FG, and they did good on turf as well. So overall, it's a well-rounded boot. I do like the touch and feel of the new Fly Touch Plus upper. It's not quite leather, but it gets the job done, and overall, it stretches, and that's why it's the first pair of boots on this list. So the next pair of boots is something I really don't think gets mentioned at all when it comes to wide foot videos, and that's gonna be indoor boots, specifically the Nike Street Gato. Now, the Nike Street Gato is probably the most well-rounded indoor boot that I have worn in the last 4 years. It's a very, very good boot. It does everything you need it to do. I really was surprised with how well this boot fit my foot. I've tested all the Nike indoor boots for the most part, and none of them are really good for wide feet besides this boot. I have 4 different colorways of the Street Gato. That's how much I love it. And if you don't believe me, you can check out the original review I did on this. I think I had 2 or 3 pairs at the time, but it's a good boot. They even did a special edition leather pair. I think it was the France colorway, and that's even gonna be better for wide feet because leather stretches even more. But if you're really looking for an indoor boot that's gonna be good for wide feet, this is gonna be one you want in your football bag. This is gonna be, or your boot bag, whatever you wanna call it. You're gonna want a pair of these. It's good for coaching in, it's good for reffing. I wear it when I ref. I have a different color that I ref in. You know, you can just play pickup in them if you wanna play on like, you know, court, turf, concrete, wherever you play pickup where you need a pair of indoor boots. So I recommend picking up a pair of these if you have wide feet regardless. I think they're $85 retail, maybe $90, but on eBay you can find a ton of different colors for a lot cheaper than that. So this is why this made was on the list, because I felt like I had to talk about it. The next pair of boots on the list is the New Balance Tequila V4 Pro Low Plus. I think the plus goes at the end, it might go somewhere else, but it's one of the more recent boots that I've done a review on, and I was pleasantly surprised by these. About 15 months ago, I did wear the New Balance Furon V7 Pro, which was pretty good for wide feet as well. And I've heard a lot of good things about the Tequila, so I felt that I had to buy a pair. It took me a little bit to get to review these. I think I had them for 3 or 4 months before I finally wore them. But what a boot. They're really, really nice for wide feet. They're made of this material called Hypo Knit. It's pretty stretchy. I really like how the heel is a bit more bubbled out. That really helps the boot kind of feel a bit more natural on your foot. It's very, very comfortable. I would say it feels like playing in socks almost, but a little bit more reinforced, obviously. The sole plate's definitely an interesting one if you haven't seen it before. It's got these crazy blades on the outside. But for having wide feet, I really didn't have any issues with these. I went with my normal size and they felt good. And to be honest, if you have wide feet, I would suggest ordering a pair of these. Make sure you can get a return just in case. And if you feel like they're still too tight, you can get an extra wide version. So if you didn't know, New Balance has always done extra wide versions. I believe it's called 2E or EE, but they say 2E just to shorten it. And they do this with everything across every sport, shoes, etc. So if you still feel like this isn't wide enough, you can get a wider version. I just haven't gotten a pair of 2E boots yet because I like a tighter feel, even though I have wide feet. It's really doesn't help it. I don't help myself, but that's just a personal thing. So at the end of the day, you'll be able to get a wider version if this still quite isn't as good for you. Number 2 on the list is the Nike Phantom GX2 Elite. For the GX1, I didn't really like the grip knit. I didn't think it was that good. Now I do like the grip knit on the GX2. And if you look here, you can see just how wide that toe box is. That's something that I really need and pretty much everybody needs if you have wide feet. And it does really well in that aspect. If you're somebody who doesn't like leather football boots, you really like a more modern synthetic feel, but you have wide feet, so you can't wear any of the speed boots like the Puma Ultra, the X's, the Vapors, I would suggest getting the GX2. It's lightweight, it still has the shape of a speed boot. It's considered a control boot, but it doesn't really matter. And I think you'd actually really enjoy this on top of the grip knit as well. I even put this boot in my rotation for a while because I loved it that much. So if you're somebody who, you know, big Nike guy, only's ever worn Vapors, but they always kill your feet, definitely try out the GX2. It's really good for wide feet. I had no issues whatsoever when I was wearing these. They broke in pretty quickly. Overall, really fantastic boot. The best boot for wide feet really was a hard decision for me to make. This list went from 15 boots to 5 boots to 10 boots to all over the place. And at the end of the day, I decided that number one isn't really any boot, and it's more of a type of boot. So any leather boot, I'm going to say, is going to be good for wide feet. Any leather boot that you wear is going to stretch to some degree. And to be honest, I think that is one of the best things about leather boots is they'll stretch to your foot. Sometimes you can overstretch them, but for the most part, they fit your feet great. And you know, all sorts of brands make good leather boots. Mizuno makes really high quality leather boots. Adidas has the new Copa Pure 2.1, which is calfskin leather. I don't think it's that fantastic, but it's still stretched pretty decently. It was good for wide feet. Adidas also has the Copa Gloro, which I thought was a fantastic boot for being $100. It really did kind of blow me out of the water a little bit. I was not expecting that, and the leather really stretched on it as well. And then you also have Adler, which is all K-leather handmade boots, probably the best quality you will get, and they're not even that expensive. And I did decide to rank leather boots currently, and it's just my opinion at the end of the day, so you might have a different opinion. But if I were to rank them, it would go like this. Number 6 is the Copa Pure 2.1. Number 5 is the Nike Premier 3. Number 4 is the Adidas Copa Gloro. Number 3 is going to be the New Balance 442. Number 2 is going to be any sort of Mizuno boot. So you got the Morelia 2, and the Neo 4. And then number 1 is going to be any Adler boots. So Adler, in my opinion, is the best leather boot currently on the market. It's K-leather, it's handmade. This is the Yatagarasu. My Horenzos are beat up. I have them right here, but I've been wearing these babies for a solid year, without a doubt. So really good boot. At the end of the day, any leather boot is gonna do you well, but if you don't like leather boots, then check the other boots that I put on this list. Start looking at them, maybe get to a store and try them on, see which boots best fit you. So that's all I have for you guys today with this video. Now remember, everything is my opinion, but I've worn all these boots a decent amount of time, so hopefully this gives you a better look and idea and kind of that shorter list on what boots are gonna actually be good for your wide feet. And with that, I will see you guys in the next video.